Sadam, yogis and yoginis, hello, welcome back to one more part in the Mul Mantra course. This is Saibhang. We are coming to the end of this course, approaching very rapidly. And let's start right away. We're going to tune in with the Mul Mantra and then we will talk about Saibhang. Now, let's see. Ek onkar satnam karta purak nirbho nirvairakal murat ajuni saibhang ur parasajap at sach jugat sach hai bhi sach nanak hosi bhi sach. Ek onkar satnam karta purak nirbho nirvairakal murat Ajuni Saibhang ur parasajap at sach jugat sach hai bhi sach nanak hosi bhi sach. Ek onkar satanam karta purak nirbho nirvairakal murat ajuni saibhang ur parasajap at sach jugat sach hai bhi sach nanak hosi bhi sach. Ik onkar satnam karta purak nirbho nirvair akal murat ajuni sebhang sebhang Saibhang 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 Saibhang. As usual, this is written for a Spanish speaker, so you may find this part of the mantra written with an A, and also you may find a G or not. You may find that this G is not present sometimes. It doesn't matter because it's not about how you write it, it's about how you pronounce it. Well, we've come to Saibhang, the 10th aspect. And I mentioned that in this mantra course we were going to explore 10 principles, 10 virtues, and 10 viruses. So in a way, this is the last one. This is the last of the principles, virtues, and viruses. Then we will, next video will go forward with Gur Prasad, but basically this is the end of the principles aspect. So Saibhang, the sounds are already present, yeah? The S has been present from Satnam, and Bhang the BH has been present from Nirbhav, the 6th aspect. And that ng closing at the end is like ong, ekonkar, yeah? It's the same kind of ong. So the longing of the ong that was expanding in the universe is already here. And actually, let's remember that this is not only talking about virtues and viruses that we can embody within us, it's talking about some of the qualities of God, or is describing the creation of the universe. You can put it like that. And when we were talking about the creation of the universe, we talk about how the scientists call it the Big Bang. Yeah, so there's this like an explosion, and there is this billions of stars and planets, and all these things are created from one point, and then it exploded into all that, and that's called Big Bang. We mentioned how the ek was like the first rock that hits the water, and then everything else comes from there. Ek ong, and the o and g ong was like the waves, yeah, of the resounding waves, yeah, of sound, vibration, ether. In the beginning was the word, no? So the first vibration, and that's like the om and the ong, yeah, vibrating out and vibrating in. So this ng, ong, we can already see it here in Saibhang. Yeah, we're coming to the 10. 10 is 1 and 0, and is the number that we associate with perfection, because the circle is the number of perfection. It's a symbol that is associated with perfection, and so we associate it to God. So we are coming into the 10, which is like the next level of the 1, yeah, a 1 and 0, so it's like perfect 1. And in some ways, this Big Bang that originated from the 1, ek ong, ong, is now being complete into Saibhang, and even bang sounds like Big Bang, right? So there is a sense of completion here. The journey from 1 to 10 has been finished, has been complete, yeah? Guru Prasad will come afterwards and we will talk about that in the following video, but this is a sense of completion. Saibhang is the completion of what was happening before. And we noticed a number of patterns, like from 1 to 4, Ekonkar Satnam, where when we are asserting our identity, when we are saying who we are, I am Ekonkar, I am, all is one, and I am part of this one. And Satnam, there is a true identity, there is a true self within me. And then after Kartapurak, after the sacred sacrifice, right, comes 6, 7, and 9, Nirbho, Nirver, Akal, Murat, and Ajuni. So these are the things that I don't identify with. And after Ajuni comes Saibhang. So Saibhang is like the completion of this process of what do I identify as, what I don't identify as. And we are completing this journey. Saibhang. So bang sounds like an explosion, like the explosion of the Big Bang. And coming back, yeah, Big Bang. This explosion is very interesting because the very sound of Saibhang is Saibhang. So say, the S sound, it's this S that we have been exploring from the fourth aspect, the Satnam, which was resonating in the heart. And I mentioned how the S is a sound that is very associated with the quality of the snake. Yeah, the snake, the serpent, which slithers around, yeah, and hisses. This sound of the S is associated to Kundalini Yoga as the practice of awakening your own Kundalini, your own potential as a human being. So it's interesting that as we come to the 10, there is this S rising and bang, like a big explosion. And so let me start a drawing. This would not be a proper video without drawing, so let's start with a drawing of this. Let's go here. And so this is number 10. We've come to Saibhang. And again, you can write this with an A and this without a G. It's not very important. And the thing is, you take this S and this BH, and the S sound, it's kind of like, how do you call this? Like the wick of a bomb? The fuse of a bomb, yeah? This is like the fuse. Let's do it green. And imagine this bomb, I'm gonna do it in red. About to explode. Now the word bomb, it's not a coincidence that the very word starts with B. Actually, I'm gonna put BH here. Because B is the sound that is explosive. B and P, plosive, yeah? Explosive, bomb sound, big, bang, boom, bam, yeah? All these sounds that you find in comic books, because the very sound of the B has to cross through the barrier of your mouth, of your lips, yeah? So there has to be a pressure in your mouth and it has to be released. So the B of Saibhang, there is a release there. But what is being released? What is going to be liberated? What is going to be released from there? And what I'm going to suggest is that the thing that is released not only is sound, because sound, a bomb has sound, but it's also light. That's the thing I'm going to be suggesting. And I'm going to give a number of key things of why I associate it like that. And maybe the first thing that I can connect to this light would be that we have been seeing 1, 2, 3, 4, coming into 5. And then we've seen this diagram a few times already, 8 and 9. And we saw how every one of these has an element. So 1 and 9 would be earth. And the 2 and the 8 would be water. Remember, this is the little rock that was thrown and touches the water and creates the waves. Then some pattern appears and some action, and that's fire reaction. And then the 4 and the 6 reach into the 4th chakra and the heart and the lungs. This is the air. And 5 would be the point of inflection, the point of change in direction, but it's also linked to the 10. Now when we come to the 9, then there is the center, the 5 would be the center, and 10 would be the all around. I'm going to do it like this. So 5 would be the center and 10 would be the periphery. What do I mean by the periphery? I mean that this goes beyond one more state. Getting to Saibhang is not like one more state. A state of fearless, a state of having no enemies. It's not just one more thing. 10 is the circle that encompasses everything, that holds and contains everything. So there is this, which is linked also to the sound ba, ba. The B is like a circular sound. And so we are like including all the other states that were coming before, all what I identify with and rejecting things that we don't identify with. So the completion and the set of all of this, that is the 10. Now, if all these 1 and 9, 2 and 8, 3 and 7 and 4 and 6 have associated an element, now what would be the 5 and the 10? The center and the periphery. The 5 and the 10, Kartapurak and Saibhang, that would be the element. Generally, we say this is the element ether. And we say that ether is the element of it's basically a vibration, But there is something else as well. It's not only vibration, because light, What is light? The whole discussion from scientists, there was this argument, is it a particle? Is it a wave? It's actually both. It's a wavicle, a waving particle. And what is that? That's vibrating. A wave is something that is vibrating, and there is this particle, supposedly photons, which are vibrating in the space, Vibration is ether, so light is linked to the ether. This is interesting. There is more aspects which are interesting of this, related to this. Now, when we see this fuse and the bomb, and I mentioned how the S is the sound of a snake, of the Kundalini, that means that we can bring this metaphor to ourselves. And let's do a yogini, meditating, and and so there is a central channel. There is this power which is asleep within us, like the sloth slumbers. The S sound is the sleep, or it's awake. When it's awake, it's slithering, yeah? And it's like this S. You can see this S, which you may have seen the drawing of the Kundalini as an S. You can see the metaphor of this with the staff of Hermes, yeah, and the two snakes which are curling around. The snakes represent both channels of energy within our body, but let's not go into that now. So as the Kundalini is going up, this is the fuse for the bomb, and as the bomb explodes, what is explosion? What is this explosion? This is our crown, yeah, where we put our hair, yeah, in the crown chakra, around the crown chakra. And incidentally, this crown chakra, this is called the 10th gate. I don't know, you may have heard this, but this point in the highest point of the head, in the crown, it's called the 10th gate, because we have 9 holes in the body: eyes, nose, mouth, and in the reproductive organs, ears as well. So it's 9 holes for everybody. And the 10th is this empty space that when a baby is born, sometimes it's even soft, this area of the head. The cranial bone is not fully formed. And in yogic terms, we say this is where the soul has gotten into the baby, into the body of the baby, yeah, BB. And so the moment of our death, we will have to be released through there. So our soul and our essence has to raise and slither up and go up through the 10th gate. So the 10th gate is our crown chakra, and this is the bomb, this is the explosion of the bomb. Now this explosion is in terms of light and light of consciousness. So what I mean by that is that if the Mul Mantra is describing not only the creation of the universe, is describing also qualities of God and qualities in humans, as we are raising in consciousness, and as we are incorporating these qualities within us, we are also raising our Kundalini, and we are awakening our higher centers. And this is the process that we call enlightenment. Yeah, enlightenment. So let's do it with red. So the raising of the Kundalini energy, to the crown can be enough to release this light, to open up, yeah, enlightenment. I can already see the thumbnail that will go into the video in YouTube. I've never decided until I start talking about it, and then I come upon something interesting. So I think this will be the thumbnail. I will have to draw it later. So this is the Kundalini going up. You can also put it within the head. Yeah, it's just rising to release. This is the bomb. This is the same bomb as here, right? The S and the BH. So this would be the BH as well. Saibhang, Saibhang, yeah? And if you can reach Saibhang and you have cultivated all these virtues, humility, obedience, equality, in service, all of this, as you get to the 10th, then this is the result, this is the production, this is what happens, the enlightenment, that's what comes out. And interesting, because in Kundalini Yoga we say we have 10 spiritual bodies, and they are also associated to this. I may explore this in our more Karam Kriya video, but the 10th one would be what we call the radiant body. So there's enlightenment, there's radiance. There's a certain light to you, there's a radiance to you. And this is like the realization of the light. Yeah. So I hope it makes sense. This is like my own meditations on the sounds and how the sounds get us to here. All right, so let's go into the sound. Let's go into Saibhang and explore the sound itself. And we have the S and the BH, of course. I'm going to do like green and red. But immediately, there is one thing that is very interesting. And Saibhang sounds very similar to a word which is Seva. Seva, Sebang. Seva, Sebang. Actually, the V and the B are often very connected. If you look within, even within the Punjab, or you look in India, and depending on which regions, will pronounce some words with a V, and the same word will be pronounced with a B in other regions. One good example is Baisakhi, the festival, which I'm going to mention it because it's very relevant to Guru Gobind Singh, the 10th Guru. And Baisakhi would be traditionally written with a B, especially in southern India, but in the Punjab you may find it written with a V, Vaisakhi, even though other regions of the Punjab, other dialects will also mention it with a B. So that's Vaisakhi. Is it Vaisakhi or Baisakhi? It's not very different. And actually, when we were exploring the sounds of in the body, we noticed how, I don't know if we can reach, the B resonates in the lower abdomen, and that's the bija sound. I don't know if you can see it down here. This is the bija sound for the chakra. That's Vam. So V and B are very intimately connected. It's the sound of water. Wah, wah, wah. Yeah. And baby in the water. Yeah, the baby lives in the water for 9 months. So baby and water and v. So when we come to Saibhang, and we can hear Saibhang, Saibhang, Seva, and that's Seva. And remember, service, that was something that we explored as one of the virtues for the fourth aspect, the heart. So here in the heart, which is the reign of the Satnam, this is where Satnam lives, we want to do Seva. Yeah, when we feel that we are all the same, we are all equal, we are all connected, Ekonkar, and as we come to the heart, we want to do something for the others, and that's the service, doing service. So how is Seva and Saibhang connected? There is a very interesting connection, because if Seva is connected to the fourth aspect, and you have been accumulating the previous one, so you are still humble and loyal, and you see things with equality. When you go to the 4 and you do 1, and you hold the 2, and you hold the 3, and you hold the 4, 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 is 10. So this is like a little shortcut. Yeah. Shortcut. Yeah. And you could potentially reach in the heart, do a jump into the enlightenment. However, it's an unusual shortcut, and not many people can do it. Just getting enlightened is not easy, and getting enlightened just by raising to the consciousness to the heart is even harder. But the potential is there, the shortcut is there, and this shortcut is pointing to something else. It's pointing to a connection between Saibhang and the number 11 and Guru Prasad. And as I mentioned, every number is pointing to the next. You will remember how when we were exploring Ajuni, J, the J sound, it's talking about the edges, and it's talking about merger. Yeah. So you were on the edge of enlightenment, and you were going to merge with the one. So now we can see clearly how, every one of the sounds were pointing to the next. We have been seeing through every video, we've seen this. Now from Ajuni, we were pointing towards the merger. And now in the merger, in the 10 is pointing out towards the 11, to the Guru Prasad, through this little pathway, which is the shortcut. And we will see more about this on next video, on this actual shortcut. But let's stay in the 10. Let's not go to the 11 yet. Let's just say that this, when you get to the heart, there is a potential for a jump. However, we should not assume ever that we reach the end of the path. And also, what I mean by this is that it's very easy to go into the heart and stay there and get confused and think that you have reached the highest state that you can get because you reach the heart, and the heart is love and it's a beautiful feeling. But it's not the end. There is a whole journey to continue. And actually we have to come back to the heart. But we will see about this in following video. We already mentioned about this, I believe, even in the first video of this course. But we will come back to this point. Let's just say, if you go into the heart, be careful not to get lost in the heart. Because I see many people, especially in the yogic path, in the spiritual path, who they are so loving and they feel so much love in their heart, they want to serve or help others. And in their serving, they lose themselves. They are so much into giving and giving and giving and giving. And somehow they start having a lot of problems with the first chakras. And they get emotional attachments, they get problems with money, losing their houses or things like that. And a lot of it may have to do with this super emphasis on the heart without taking into context everything else. And the heart is a very important aspect, which is totally necessary for us to reach to our excellence. We need that love, but it's not the only ingredient. And so reaching the heart would be just one more path in this raising the consciousness up. So that's the thing about the heart and about the shortcut and about the S and Seva, very similar. The BH, there was one thing, BH, I mentioned that it is found in the Nirbhau. Yeah, Nirbhau was the first part of the Mul Mantra where the BH appears. And if we look at Nirbhau, that's the sixth aspect. And here we have 4 and 6. So you see the S from Seva and the Bhang from Nirbhau, they are combining, and 4 plus 6 equals 10. You may think that I'm going too far with some of these connections that I do. And maybe I do go too far, but it somehow makes sense. As you start to explore the sounds, explore the meanings, explore the numbers, and see the connections between them, what I find is not coincidences, but actually a great intelligence that is guiding all this. It's an absolute intelligent force guiding these principles, guiding these virtues and these viruses. And we can connect to that. It's in our hands to be able to connect to this. So we have Seva and Nirbhau and the 4 and the 6. And if you remember, we saw about this a little bit when we were looking on Kartapurak. Let me get the page here. So the 5 in the middle contains the 6 and the 4, and we saw how Kartapurak, if we add the S, which is very interesting, is what we are saying now. Hold the S, keep it there until the end, until you get to Saibhang. If you hold the S, SKRT would become sacred, and PRKS would become presence. And this would be the sacred action, which literally meant sacrifice, which was giving us the virtue of Kartapurak. And this presence was the presence of being. Now, there is a very interesting thing as well, which is that this sacred action was something that is very associated to we could associate that to the warrior aspect in us. You will remember, we put it in green, soft green. These were the warrior aspects, and these were the saints. Let me put it like this. So the saints and the warriors. And you will remember, from Guru Nanak to Guru Angad, Guru Amardas, and Guru Ramdas, these were very saintly qualities, and this is a point of transition, and his death by torture becomes the fuel to, it's really like a fuse, the fuse of a bomb, really is now starting, yeah? Then all these ones coming afterwards, Guru Har Gobind and Har Rai and Hare Krishna and Guru Tegh Bahadur, these have to take on arms, and this culminates in Guru Gobind Singh, and this is the warrior aspect, and these are the two faces, yeah, the face of the saint and the face of the warrior, and we were seeing that in the sacred actions, yeah, of the warriors and the presence of being of the saints. So that's an interesting thing, that when we get to the 10 Saibhang, hopefully we have cultivated both aspects, and we are able to hold within our heart the saint aspect and the warrior one. Yeah, this is how the image is coming up, it's appearing. And this would be the Kundalini down here, yeah? The word Kundalini literally means like a coil, a little lock, a coil of the beloved's hair. So very interesting, no? A little coil of hair. And that coil of hair, it's uncoiled, yeah? There is a knot, has to be untied, and as it released, it raises up to the knot of Shiva, which is, the Rishi knot that we do with the hair up here on top, which is calling the Kundalini to go up, yeah? So it's the sound is helping the Kundalini go up to the Rishi knot in the hair. That's another interesting connection. Yeah. I love this. I really enjoy just contemplating on this, and just simplicity of taking one sound and how far can it go and what can we find from it. So that's the sound itself. Let's see the definition. Let's see the actual meaning of the word Saibhang. It's in you will find it in dictionaries. Yeah, as I mentioned, written in different ways. You can find it like this, Saibhang. Maybe that's a way to write it. I wrote it in a different way up here. It doesn't matter. You will find it translated as self-existent. So that it exists by itself. It doesn't need anything else to exist. And I was checking online, what is the source of this word? What is the origin of this word? Because we are always looking at the Sanskrit original. And in one of the websites, I don't remember if it's Sikh Dharma or one of these, they say how Saibhang comes from the word Swayambhu. Was it this one? Swayambhu, I think. Which means self-existent, yeah? And it's actually is one of the names of Brahman, yeah? That it exists by itself. But there is two other words which also start with sway, and is Swaparga? No, Swabharya, which is associated to Vishnu, and also Swabhu, yeah? So Swabhu is also self-existent, so they mean the same. But I find it interesting because Swabharya and Swabhu contain the Z, in this case, with a V. We will talk about this in a moment. And contains also the BH of, like say and bang, swa, bu. So definitely this is the root, there's no doubt. This is the root of the word. However, that's something very interesting, is that it's not just an S, it's swa, swa, swa. And the sound of swa, it is something very interesting to me, because At some point, I make the connection between swa, like swaha, chanted at the end of many Hindu mantras, connected swaha con Waheguru. Now, Waheguru is one of the most relevant mantras in Sikh Dharma, and this is the name they give to God. So when the Sikhs will refer to God, we say Waheguru, 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 and it's also repeated. I think it's even whispered in your ear during the ceremony for initiation. I don't know, because I'm not really a Sikh. Like, I haven't taken the how do you say that? The vows. Amrit. I haven't taken Amrit, so but I've heard that they say Waheguru, 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 no, in a particular way, and I believe this Vahe comes from Swaha, and Swaha would be this. Swaha contains this SVA, swa sound, like here, yeah, Swabu. So this would be Swaha, swa. It's a very interesting particle. From here you can find swaha, swara, swapna, or swapna. Swapna is asleep, one of the states of consciousness. And remember, the Kundalini is asleep, yeah? Swara is like one of the names for Swara Yoga. There's a kind of yoga that studies the movement of breath, and you bring awareness to the breath in your body. But Swara also literally means sound. That's the word for sound. So let me just write it here. This is asleep, and this is sound. Very relevant to a mantra course. And Swaha is the sound. And I was looking Swaha in the internet this week. I was checking where does it come from. It's actually a goddess, and you would put her name at the end of many mantras to do what? Well, in the internet, in the dictionary, it says is to how is that? It's called the denouement used at the end of a mantra. This is an N. This is a letter N. That's such a weird word. When I found it, I had to look for it. What does this mean? Denouement. Apparently, it comes from French, which I probably totally butchered. And it means to unknot. So to unknot, to do, undo a knot. And now, I mentioned already that the Kundalini is kind of in a knot. And there is a number of knots in us. The ego is like a knot on our mind. It grabs itself to the mind and it creates a knot. We have 3 knots, which already have a video on that, on the 3 Granthis, which we have to unlock to open up the path for the Kundalini. We have the Rishi knot up here for the raising of the Kundalini. And finally, we have Guru Gobind Singh. I'll tell the story in a moment about him. But he was the one who established the Sri Guru Granth Sahib as the Guru. And Sri Guru Granth Sahib, Granth means knot. So it's like another knot. So how interesting, all these knots appearing. And that would be associated to the word Swaha, to unknot, to undo the knot. And I associate undoing that knot to the raising of the Kundalini, Swaha. And it would be chanted always in the traditional Hindu mantras. You would find it, for example, in the Mahamrityunjaya mantra. If you are doing the fire ceremony in India, you would be like throwing ghee into the fire, and you would be chanting Om Trayambakam Jajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukamiva Vandhanam Murtyor Mukshiyamamritat Swaha. And with the Swaha, you throw the ghee into the fire, and there's a little like a little explosion, like a Saibhang. So Swaha and the Saibhang would be kind of equivalent. And with other mantras, we will say Waheguru, 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 right? We're chanting and then we go into Waheguru. So And there is some gurudwaras which chant Waheguru for 24 hours. I was in one of those in London one year. I wasn't there 24 hours there. It was only a few hours, but it was very interesting. And it's like an explosion of consciousness. Like the whole ceiling, the walls, everything is vibrating. Waheguru, Waheguru, no? Very, very interesting. So this is the state that we are getting as we are coming into this awakening of the Kundalini and letting it reach the top of our heads. Hopefully this is interesting to you. If so, I'm going to ask you already to just click the like button if you are enjoying this, and so I don't have to say it at the end. And just if you are enjoying these videos, and maybe it's not even the first time. If you haven't subscribed, just subscribe. And just if this is awakening something in you, just write a comment, and so we can interact. And I feel there is a community listening to these videos. All right, let's talk about the Guru. Yeah, in every video I have talked about the Gurus and telling some stories about them. And there could be many. I already told something about Guru Gobind Singh, how when his father was asking, this requires a great sacrifice. And he said, well, you are the Guru, who is a better sacrifice than you. And I mentioned this is kind of hilarious and dramatic, and it's, the whole situation. But it's somehow the whole thing repeats itself on Baisakhi Day. So Baisakhi is the spring festival, the spring harvest festival, and it's celebrated all throughout India and probably other countries as well, and calling it Baisakhi as well. But it's particularly special for the Sikhs because of a ceremony that happened with Guru Gobind Singh. But before we go into that, let's just say one thing. It's the spring festival. It's the festival of harvest. And is this not the raising of the Kundalini and the reaching of the crown and the enlightenment state? Is this not the harvesting of all the spiritual toil, all the spiritual discipline that is required, to walk this path, to cultivate these virtues of humility and obedience and all these things? Is it not like so much spiritual effort? And then this is the harvest. This is when you collect the fruit. Yeah, the seed and the water is making the seed grow, and then there's a beautiful flower happening when you are in love. But this is the fruit. The harvest is happening after all this growing of the little plant of our awakening, as a plant. We can be asleep or we can wake up. So this is Baisakhi, the spring, the harvest. And on Baisakhi Day, what happened is, Guru Gobind Singh was trying to restore the faith, establish the faith very strongly because of all that was happening, that there was a massive conversions and many people being sacrificed and killed. And so Guru Gobind Singh calls for all the towns around to come and celebrate. It would be a special day. And when everybody was gathered, he made a very beautiful speech, very moving, very touching, and talking about this renewal of the faith and the Sangat. Now, at some point he stops and he takes off his sword and he said, this renewal of faith requires a great sacrifice. And he says, apparently, from what I read in the internet, I was trying to find which words he said exactly. I don't know if it's exactly these words, but he said something like, my sword is hungry for a head. Something like that. Very dramatic, but I take it a little bit like a theater, what he was doing there, though it could be also literal. So this story it's kind of myth and history all mixed together. But he said, my sword is hungry for a head. And he asked for a volunteer. And so after a moment, one Sikh raised the hand, and he took this Sikh into a carp. Is it called carp? Like a tent. And we don't know what happened behind the tent, but there was a flashing sword, and he came back with the sword all bloodied. And he said, I need another one, something like that. And okay, another volunteer comes up, he's the guru, he's asking for sacrifice, I'm gonna go, and came up. And again, behind the tent, zoop, sword bathed in blood, dripping blood, another one. And after 1, 2, 3 people are starting to run away, thinking he's gone mad, the guru's gone crazy. Kind of like Guru Nanak and the test of checking who is a true disciple of Guru Nanak, and asking his followers who is gonna eat the body, the corpse in the forest. I think I mentioned that story when I was talking about Guru Angad. So again, the Guru's gone mad, people running away, and this happened 5 times. Interesting, the connection between 5 and the 10 Gurus, right? The 10th Guru. And on the 5th, when the 5th one comes up, and after the flashing sword, then the 5 of them, the 5 who were, their head were cut. Head, I remember in the knot, the mind and the ego are knotted together, they are intertwined, there is a knot between them. So the knot has been untwisted, and by cutting the head is a metaphor for cutting the ego. And then the 5, 6 came out, dressed in pure white, and this is why we dress white, dressed in pure white with their turbans, and they became the Panch Pyare, the 5 beloved ones would be called. And then everybody celebrated that was something very special had happened. And in a way, then this was like an initiation to them. It was sort of, it looked like even like a baptismal ceremony, sort of. But then I believe Guru Gobind Singh then asked them to kind of baptize, I'll use this word very freely, him. So he gave sort of the power to these 5. What he was saying by this is like, from now on, as long as there is 5 beloved ones, as long as there is Panch Pyare anywhere in the world, then the teachings are going to carry on. And you're not going to depend on me and my family having another child to become a guru. Because of all the terrible things that happen along the way, and we know, Hare Krishna dying, and we don't know who is, Baba Bakale, where is the next guru, right? And then all the gurus being sacrificed. After Guru Gobind Singh says, no, from now on, there is no need for a human guru anymore. You have the book, which is the word. You have the teachings and all the words there. When you read them, the guru is going to be alive. And that's Sri Guru Granth Sahib. You read them and the knot is undone. Your own inner knot gets undone when you read it. So this is the establishment of something that the 5th Guru, Guru Arjan, started with the Adi Granth, and then the 10th Guru does the Sri Guru Granth, which is the great book, and that would be the final completion of the scriptures, which contain the teachings of all these 10 Gurus, plus other saints from the time, like Kabir. So this was the establishment of the Sri Guru Granth for one side, on one part. Another aspect is he was trying to stop the caste system, something that the Guru Nanak was already opposed to, and even women could be part of the Panch Pyare, and this is what he's saying: we are all equal. So kind of all the virtues that we have been exploring, they were all there. They were already established in the Langar from the 2nd Guru as well. So it's like all these things have been happening, and this is like the culmination. And he's saying, look, up until now, the blood, there had to be somebody in the family to be the next king. From now on, you are your own queen, you are your own king. And he named all the women will be Kaur, and all the men will be Singh like the lion. And in a way, it's like he was Guru Gobind Singh, it was his name, he was his surname, his family. And he said, from now on, you are all from royal blood. If you choose to, you have to choose to be a Singh or a Kaur. But if you choose to use that name, like I use Ardaas Singh, it's somebody who is going to work for their own royalty. You're going to work to crown yourself. Remember crowning, the crown of spirituality, the crown of enlightenment, the crown of the Kundalini raised to the 10th gate, So you have to choose to do that. it doesn't depend on your karma, which family were you born, were you blue blood, or in which level of the caste system are you in. No. From now on, if you want to, being a princess is your birthright. Being a royal warrior, a Singh, a royal lion, that's your birthright, if you choose to. And that's the gift that he gave us. And that's Baisakhi Day. That's why Baisakhi is considered so important as celebration. Well, I think it's very beautiful, the connection between the crown and the knots and all these things. And I hope you enjoyed this story from Sri Guru Gobind Singh. And we are ready to complete the table with the principles and the viruses. So here we go. The principle is very simple. We already mentioned this. It's self-sustaining. Which makes sense, If it's not, it doesn't die and is not born, then it just sustains itself. It just carries on. It's just the consequence of 8 and 9. Yeah. And the virtue, this would be, sometimes we say it's royal courage. When Guru Gobind Singh asked for the 5 Panch Pyare, a volunteer, he's sort of recreating what happened with Guru Tegh Bahadur volunteering to be the sacrifice. So he was asking for us to make some sacrifice. And look, I mentioned, there is a sacrifice of something. In Kartapurak, we saw this, and it takes royal courage. Interesting that the word courage comes from kor. Kor is heart, and connects again Saibhang with Seva. Seva and Saibhang. Royal courage. But you can also say there could be other virtues like your radiance. And being self-sufficient, Self-sufficient. I'm going to just say this. And Virus says, 10 is 1 and 0, is all or nothing. And when you do a sacrifice, you can sacrifice it in the wrong way. And you can take things to the extremes, 1 and 0, and be fanatic. Someone who takes the extremes of all or nothing, the 1 and the 0, in the wrong way, it can become like a fanatic, something like that. And that's it. We have completed the table. On the next video, we will go into Guru Prasad, and we are going to be completing this course. We are very, very soon to finishing, and it's been a joy to meditate every week on one part of the Mul Mantra. And I hope if you're watching this video, you probably did maybe some of the others. And if you've done all of them every week, meditating as well, or maybe you binge watch the whole series. But if you have been doing it slowly and meditating, I think this was a beautiful meditation through every one of the words. And I appreciate you doing this effort with me. And the harvest is right here with Saibhang. Yeah. Thank you very much. And until next time, Sat Nam.